Saturday's first video for you is the first news story is about the visit of African Union President Macky Sall and Moussa Faki. The two were in Sochi, Russia. They held a meeting with Putin, Russian president. What happened there? Second news story is from Somalia. It seems that US and Somalia's government has launched a new offensive against the armed group Al-Shabaab. A few hours ago, first airstrike was conducted on Al-Shabaab hideouts. This is the first strike in around 3 months. Thirdly, US State Department and Eritrean Information Ministry have exchanged some allegations. International Religious Freedom Office of the US State Department a few hours ago issued a statement about religious freedom in Eritrea. Then Yamane Gebremeskel responded. And lastly, we have a video clip from Oromia, viewers. OLA fighters can be seen with ENDF soldiers who are being sent to reunite with their families. What's happening there? We have a clip for you. First news story is about the visit of African Union President Macky Sall and Moussa Faki, African Union Chairman of Council. They went to Sochi, Russia yesterday. They arrived there. They held a meeting with Putin, Russian president. What came under discussion? Africa relies on wheat from Russia and Ukraine. Around 40% of wheat being imported in Africa comes from Ukraine and Russia. And these imports have stopped now because we know that fighting is going on in parts of Ukraine. And Ukrainian ports are under a blockade like Odessa and others. Russians have laid siege to Ukrainian ports. So both Ukraine and Russia, they're not exporting wheat to Africa. And Africa relies heavily on wheat imports from these two countries. Egypt imports around 80% of its wheat from the two countries. Somalia, 100%. Countries like Tanzania, Rwanda, Senegal, 60% of their wheat imports come from Ukraine and Russia. So you see that Russia and Ukraine are major exporters of wheat to Africa. And in Africa, there is already food shortage. There is hunger. That is why these African Union leaders went to Sochi, Russia. They held meetings. What happened there? What did Russia say? Well, Russia says that the problem is linked to Western sanctions, and it will not lift the blockade on Ukrainian ports. It will lift the blockade when West and US will lift sanctions on Russia. So it seems the meeting between African Union leaders and Putin, Russian president, were not productive. They held a joint press conference as well. We have some pictures for you. You can see Moussa Faki and Macky Sall, Senegal's president, African Union president, meeting with Putin. What struck me is the way Macky Sall is taking notes. Looks like he's reading from these notes. But so far, no breakthrough in these talks. That is what was expected. A second news story is from Somalia, viewers. It seems that an all-out new offensive against armed group Al-Shabaab has been launched. Somalia's security officials 2 days ago said that a new joint concerted military operation against Al-Shabaab was due to be launched. Then a few hours ago, US conducted an airstrike on Al-Shabaab hideouts near Kismayo. This is the first airstrike in around 3 months. Last was, I think, in February. Now, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud is the new president of Somalia, and after that, we are seeing that a new military operation, new offensive with the participation of US Special Forces is being launched against Al-Shabaab. And we know that US intelligence officials, they've been visiting Ethiopia and Kenya as well, and they want to use Kenya as a base for drone strikes and airstrikes on Al-Shabaab hideouts in Somalia. Al-Shabaab, as we discussed in previous videos, is still an armed group with tremendous penetrations in Somalia, in border areas of Somalia, Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia. Will this new operation succeed? That remains to be seen. Thirdly, viewers, Eritrean Information Ministry and US State Department have exchanged some allegations. What did US State Department say? Office of International Religious Freedom of US State Department spoke a few hours ago. The statement says, in Eritrea, only 4 religious groups are permitted to practice their faiths freely. Other minority religious groups are arrested, detained, and they are forced to renounce their faith to get themselves released. Then we saw a counter statement from Yemane Gebremeskel, Information Minister of Eritrea. What did he say? He says that in Eritrea there are Orthodox, Catholics, Protestants, churches, mosques, and Jewish synagogues as well. US State Department is peddling inaccurate, false information. Well, we know that in Eritrea there are believers from Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox denominations who are allowed to worship freely. What about evangelical and Pentecostals? Evangelicals and Pentecostals are being arrested, they are being detained. 2 days ago I did a video on that, in May, more than a dozen were arrested. They are not allowed to practice their faith freely. What about Shia Muslims, which is a Muslim sect? Sunni Islam is allowed in Eritrea. Yes, there are mosques there. What about Shia Imam Bargas? They call their mosques Imam Bargas or mosques. Are there any Shia mosques in Eritrea? Are there any evangelical churches in Eritrea? Are there any Pentecostal churches in Eritrea? Yes, there are problems. Minority religious groups are being targeted. They are being detained. But Yemane Gebremeskel says that US State Department is peddling false information. It's not false. Last week, some protests were also held in front of Eritrean embassy in the UK against the arrests of minority religious group members in Eritrea. Lastly, viewers, last story is from Oromia. Oromo Liberation Army is now reuniting ENDF soldiers with their families. We have a clip showing 2 ENDF soldiers. They are from SNNPR. They can speak only Amharic language. They surrendered to Oromo Liberation Army because, as is being claimed by OLA-backed news sources, they were not willing to fight against Oromo Liberation Army. They wanted to unite with their families. So what did OLA do? OLA is now sending them to meet their families. They are surrendering their weapons, their uniforms to OLA members, and OLA is giving them clothes to put on, and then they will be sent to meet their family. So that is what's happening in Oromia, that OLA is not taking them captive, but OLA is sending them to meet their families. Watch this clip from Oromia. Thanks for watching.
Ya, mana bumi đây.
እንደውም ዩኒፎርም ነው እንኳን ጫማውን እና ሌላ ጫማ የቱ ነው አርባ ነው ይሄም አርባ ነው የት አለ ይችላል ይሆናል